Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have liftoff.
On today's episode, I'm joined by a trailblazing leader, Nicola Mendelsohn. She's not only shaping the future of one of the biggest companies in the world, but also championing women in business every step of the way. So let's find out why she's the lady who launched. Right, before we get into it, if you like this episode, which I know you're going to, please don't forget to like and subscribe and to share it to your group chat. Well, thank you so much for coming. I'm so pleased to sit and chat to you for so many reasons. I always start our conversations in the same way, and that is looking back at early life, childhood, and I always try and find out what you think sparked your spirit, whether that's entrepreneurial spirit or just real drive. But what do you think that was for you?
This is easy for me. It doesn't even take a moment to think about it because I grew up in the 70s in Manchester.
Mm-hmm. I love
And
Manchester so much.
I love Manchester
It's
too.
such a good city.
Isn't it? Have you lived there?
Never lived there. But every time I go there, it's so funny. My colleagues always say to me, you say this every time we're in Manchester. We film a lot of telly there, right? So there's the media city and everything else there now. And I'm like, I fancy a little apartment in Manchester. But it's become my tagline when I get out
Get you a
Piccadilly.
T-shirt. Fancy a little apartment. But I grew up in the 70s and both my mum and my grandma both worked. So that was, and they were both entrepreneurs. More modestly, my grandparents worked together on the markets, selling haberdashery. And my parents worked together running a catering business. So it was very natural for me to see them both out and about, working and achieving. And we would always help as well. So from the earliest memories I have, we're actually counting out buttons with my grandparents and putting them in packs, taking a big box and sorting them out, or working as a waitress in my parents' business. So that was just kind of expected of me. That's just what we kind of did as a family.
Mm-hmm. Which is such a kind of, I always think that when I'm raising my own children, and I'm not sure if you've ever been in this situation, but you constantly I do work a lot and they see that and I know that they really value that. And I hope that it's being a great role model when that mum guilt kicks in. I'm like, this is what I want them to see. I grew up watching my mum spin what, when I look back now, is like every single plate. And I kind of like that there's that real good sort of sense of female work ethic and the fact that you can work towards goals and passions and do what lights you up. But it's so interesting to me that in the 70s you had that from your mother and your grandmother. That is so inspiring.
Yeah, and it's really unusual for back then. I'm older than you.
No, but exactly, and that's exactly my point, right?
But I think it's also about the definition of what is normal. And so I think society has put upon women the fact that normal is the woman doesn't work.
Yeah.
Or if she does work, it's not as an ambitious job as a man or not an entrepreneurial role. So I think
Not
we have
a
those
serious job.
we hold those stereotypes in and the definitions of what the normal is. And what I realized very early on actually was, A, it was unusual that I had that background, but B, normal is just what you know to be normal.
Yes,
So that's what my kids grew up, I have 4 children, they grew up seeing both mum and dad going out, working, doing things they loved and were passionate about. And one of the best things that ever happened to me was when my younger kids turned around and came to me one day and said, Mum, most unusual thing, so weird. And I said, what? He said his friend's mum didn't work and how unusual. And I was like, he's like, that's not normal, is it? And I was like,
yes, I love that.
So,
it's not our normal, no, son. It's
correct.
so interesting. How did those kind of early years for you look in terms of school? And so was you at school in Manchester? Mm-hmm. And how was that? Did you always know the direction that you were going to go down, or were you kind of finding your feet as you went?
I think we're all finding our feet. I wasn't one of those kids that knew very early on it was going to be something in business.
Yeah.
If anything, it was more the creative industries. I loved acting. I was a bit naughty at school, a bit rebellious. But in part, I look back now
The
because
actors always are.
yeah, maybe it's kind of round peg, square hole, and,
Yeah.
questioning, curious. I think a lot of school back then just wanted to cookie cut. You need to do it like this to do this in order to do that. So there were days that, weren't the best of times. And what was important for me at that time was actually my parents backed me and my personality and my spirit. And that, I think, was a really important part, that they saw something in me that perhaps academia at that time didn't. Although I kind of turned it around by going to college when I was 16 and then went to university. Then I decided to go into advertising.
And talk to me about that. So the moment that you decide, okay, advertising, what was it about advertising that caught you?
So I think it was my own network, actually, was having a friend who'd also grown up round the corner to me in Manchester, who was a year older. He'd got a job in London.
Bright lights.
Yeah, bright lights in advertising. And certainly up until that point in my life, I didn't really know anyone that worked in the creative industries. And I couldn't believe you could actually get a job like that and you'd be paid to make ads for the TV.
And it feels like, and I don't know if it was the same then, but I always think like anything in advertising feels like quite a sexy job. Like it's quite, creative and cool, and you meet like-minded people in that space, and it feels very... I grew up like in a small place in Essex, and even like getting on the train to London was like, she works in town. Like it was like a big deal.
Big deal. I mean, I remember the handful of trips that we did as a family to London. Visiting Harrods was like, visiting the palace. They were big moments. And I think advertising was like that as well. And I remember looking then at what was on the adverts on TV and thinking, I like that one, and then having to go to the library pre-internet to do the research to see which companies did those ads. And that's how I started on the journey. I went to the company that did the Levi's and the Audi and the Boddington's adverts. That's how I chose the company.
Wow, goodness me. And so that was your first job in advertising. And how did that look? Like what role did you start in then at that point?
So absolutely the bottom of the bottom. I came in as a graduate trainee. I was one of 3 women that were chosen that year to come in. And so you're a junior account executive. Yeah. My first accounts were Cadbury's and Phileas Fogg. So I was queen of snacks in the office and everything.
Big accounts. Big brands for a first gig. And did you feel like you were... Because you always hope, don't you, that when you enter something and you're sort of in your infancy and you're finding your feet and you're figuring out what this kind of big shiny world looks like, you always hope that you're going to get somebody that takes you under their wing and I suppose really makes you feel comfortable in those settings and gives you that confidence to shine. Did you feel like you had that, or did you feel like you really had to fight to be noticed?
The environment was one of kind of ambition and creativity and entrepreneurship. So Bardell Bogle Hegarty, as it was called, became BBH, and the 3 founders were all there, and it was one of the coolest agencies on the planet at the time. And you sort of took that for granted, that you were at the heart of it. And being one of their graduates was like everybody wanted to help.
Yes.
And they did a really good job of training us. I mean, I sat outside John Bardell and Nigel Bogle's office for the entire 12 years I was at the company. So learning by osmosis, feeling that energy was something that inspired me, and I kind of thrived in that environment.
And being a sponge, I suppose.
Literally,
like
just
absorbing. That is like 12 years.
12 years.
12 years there, so you were really a sponge.
I was, and I had 3 children whilst I was there as well.
And this is something that I always... Being a woman, you feel like you're getting your groove, you know where you are, and I can only relate this to myself. And I think really with me now, I'm in my late 30s and I feel like the best that I've felt in the way that I know myself. And, my friends and my family will say, well, we wait to hit 40s, we wait to hit 50s, it gets even better, and which I can't wait for, by the way. I'm like, it gets better, brilliant. But I had children quite young. So
How young were you?
I felt pregnant with Alea when I was 23. Okay. And I'd just got married, and so I also got married very young. And I was in a girl band, and it's kind of like illegal in girl band terms to, I suppose, not be a single songstress, as they would call us, and start a family, right? It kind of goes against everything that we're taught. So for me, I felt pregnant, and I was so excited because I just got married on one hand, but I felt this very, I don't know, this almost moral dilemma. And I really struggled at the start of pregnancy, the morning sickness and stuff. And we were living in LA at the time. And it was, jet lag and far from home. And we'd been there for a year. I was pregnant. I didn't tell anybody. I'm sure they guessed. The girls were like, you stopped eating sushi, which was like my favourite thing. So it was a big giveaway. But I remember feeling that pressure of, this is my career now. And the decision that I'm making for my life, and one that I'm actually really excited about, could fold everything else. And I remember that feeling of not wanting to let anybody down, and that I'd maybe made a decision that might change the path of my career, which for then me changed it for the better. But did you ever have that when you're at a company, and it sounds like you had a very nice setup and it was a very nice atmosphere, but did you feel as a woman that you were ever scared about your position when you returned after having a baby, or did you ever have that moment?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I was also married young. I got married at 22. I thought I was really old.
I did. But when I think of my sisters now who are like early, mid-20s, it would feel so weird, the idea of them getting married. But I thought I knew everything and I'd done it all.
And we both hadn't.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And I had Gabby when I was 25. Which was really unusual as well.
Yeah.
So that much we have in common. I'm
Yeah.
not in a girl band. Never have been.
And I know nothing about AI.
Yeah. So, and it was quite unusual. At the time, in advertising, there was no women that I looked up to in the industry, or certainly around me in the company, that had a baby. Or if they had a baby, they'd left. And so there wasn't the role model there to kind of understand and look up to.
This is how we now do it all.
Yeah, correct. So I had the first one, came back, and of course you feel nervous. You've got imposter syndrome. You feel, what's it going to be like? And especially if you're working for somebody else, which I was at that time. I actually found the second baby harder.
Really?
And the reason for that was, again, remember, nobody's ever come back after having a second child. They actually had a very strange maternity policy at the time, which said that you had to come back after 3 years. So if you wanted to get the maternity pay, the extra enhanced. So it was, we'll give you the first one, and it was very nice and generous, but 3 more years you need to wait until you're allowed to conceive to have your next baby.
We'll give you one, but don't take the piss and have too many.
Correct. And that's the bit that really stopped me in my tracks and made me surprised to think, well, hang on, so this is something different, how am I going to be perceived? Am I going to be taken seriously? But actually, on the other hand, the company was very good, because at that time, I realised that being a mum was actually really demanding. It's really hard. And I wanted to be more present with my children. And so I shifted to do 4 days a week. And that was something that I carried on with for 16 years.
Such a funny time, isn't it? And now I look back, and if I could have sort of scooped the 23-year-old me up and said, it's all right. And I remember being and I'm also supposed to be sexy, by the way. So when I come back, I'm supposed to film a music video and my boobs are leaking and I need Spanx. And it's just not what the version me a few months ago was. And I think and obviously that's a sort
I did not have that
different
pressure.
Proposition. Yeah, it's a different proposition, but just the idea of thinking that you've got to have this figured out and how that will now look and how demanding this now is, but also not wanting to miss the first day of reception, or not, and knowing that you've got to find that new normal. It's quite a challenge mentally, and trying to figure out the elusive word that we call balance, which I just don't believe
the word.
in. Absolutely with you. Thank you. It's that, isn't it? It's that where that is it can be a really tough time, and that's where you're very aware that you're female.
Yeah, I think so. And I think you have to make different decisions. I certainly did. So I turned down more senior titles and jobs because I was working 4 days a week, because I did want to make sure that I had that time with the family when they were growing up. So those were active decisions that I made. I also found that going off on maternity leave, I came back actually better at my job.
That's so interesting. And I think that's such a good message that we need to kind of perpetuate, because actually I found that too. And my focus and well, guess what? We can multitask way better than we ever could. So
my children don't think I can anymore, by the way. They're always going, Mum, you can't multitask. And I can. I'm good at it.
And also, if we had so many years, do you know what I mean? It's because we've used all those skills when you were younger. But it's so interesting you say that. And I wish that women would say that more, that would, maybe help bosses in the workplace to know that actually, mat leave shouldn't be a thing that you... I don't know if it dread's the right word, but I think women dread it from a place of oh gosh, we're all hormonal. Who's going to take our job? if the replacement comes in and they, you know, she's gelling and we all have that sort of fear. But I think employers on the other foot think that that's a sign of, okay, they've started the train of having kids now, they're going to be flaky or they're going to be less present, which of course by default we are. But sometimes we can really, it gives us that different level of fire in our belly, and that lioness mode. For me, I also applied that to my career too, you know, and I think sometimes it's employers in that situation really discredit women after maternity. And I think we hear that a lot, you know, the conversations that I've had on this podcast, we do hear that a lot, and I hate that.
I'm sorry to hear that. I don't have that experience. I mean, the company that I'm at now, the ones that I've been at previously, we've promoted women when they've been on maternity leave because we saw they were on trajectory.
That's incredible.
We didn't expect that they would be any different when they came back. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. More of that, please. I want to move to Meta and talk about your career there, because it is just incredible. You've worked your way up to VP, which, as anyone knows, that is no small feat. What do you think were some pivotal, I suppose, moments or decisions that helped you rise to that and to that role and help you rise in that way?
So I think it obviously starts before I got to Meta. So I'd been in advertising. I went to work for a big company. Then I had my own company. And I think there's an essence of curiosity. We haven't spoken about curiosity. I think good entrepreneurs, I think people with fire in their belly are just always hungry to know what the next thing is going to be. And when the advent of digital really started 30 years ago now, I was like, oh, this is interesting. I'm curious. I want to know more. I want to understand. And so I started to kind of learn for myself and put myself in places where I could learn from and be inspired by interesting people. And this was around the first .com boom and then bust as it became. And there was big networking going on there and, you know, just the opportunity to meet incredible people. And I was always thinking back about how it would work for advertising. So I rose at BBH to be the new business director. And in those days, it was actually a bit like being somebody in VC. Because, you know, they would come in and say, look, we've just raised this amount of money. We need to do some marketing. Can you help us? And I would we didn't have enough resource to do the amount of businesses that had raised money.
Oh, wow.
So I started to learn more and more about these ideas. Now, some of them were fabulous ideas, but the technology wasn't going to be ready for another 20 years. But that's where I kind of got the buzz and the excitement around it and starting to think about, you know, the early digital tasks that we were being given, things like the creation of a CD-ROM or, you know, understanding
Gosh,
you know,
yes.
It's like crazy.
Yeah.
Like that slow dial-up that would take forever. You remember those noises from
I just
that
remember
time?
my mum would shout because she'd be on the phone and you'd hear, no. She'd be like, get off, I'm on the phone to your aunt. And I'm trying to dial up downstairs.
That noise.
That is such a nostalgic
Which, if
thought.
anybody's listening who's much younger, you'll have no idea what we're
sad.
talking about.
That's
So I think
sad.
it started there, and then I had my own business which had digital at the heart. It was integrated advertising and marketing. And then from there I became the president of the advertising industry trade body. Wow. And the whole vision was about being digital pioneers, being the most creative. So that when Meta, or Facebook as it was then in 2012, 2013, came knocking, they eventually found me, and we began the conversation, which at the time was for the job to be the vice president of Europe, Middle East and Africa. That sounds very grand, and it is very grand, but it was a much smaller company at the time.
Yeah, of course.
There was less than 200 people at the company in London. Today we've got almost 6,000 people. So just to give you an idea of the how much it's changed.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, if I think about the journey of Facebook then into Meta, I think those same skill sets hold true, because the company is totally different. You know, when I first joined, we had Facebook, we just bought Instagram. The company had done very badly because we didn't have a mobile strategy. So Mark was just shifting us all to be mobile first, not desktop first, just because of when we were created. And so straight away, the company's pivoting, the company's changing. And so it has been for the last 12 plus years, that those kind of, if you're still curious, if you're hungry, if you can move with change and be entrepreneurial, those are the things that will hold you in good stead.
And in what you do, there's no way that you can't move with change, right? Because it's just like you talk CD-ROM and then you talk AI.
Yeah.
Like you can't be stuck. And my mum always says to me, as long as you're moving, sometimes you move back and sometimes you move forward, but to be stuck is
going backwards.
Exactly that. want to touch on what you said when you mentioned the word curiosity, because I think that is one thing that I think every female founder or successful woman in business that I chat to has in common, is that tenacity and that curiosity. And I think it's such an important thing to dwell on, because we talk now in this, which is ironic, in this kind of digital age, that there's that fear of embarrassing yourself loudly, or that kind of fear of failing loudly, because everything is so accessible now. So everybody knows everybody's move. If you've launched something, your friendship circle have seen it, or beyond that, your followers, however that might look. And there's that fear of asking questions now. And I kind of hate that, because I'm like, you might say nosy, you might say curious, however you want to position it. I love to ask questions, and I've never been somebody that's shy when it comes to putting myself out there. And the worst that's going to happen is A, they're not going to reply, or B, they're going to say, sorry, I can't help you, but maybe this person can. And you kind of have to build that network yourself, and you do that by being curious. But I think, have you ever, I mean, it sounds not, because you're like-minded where you like being curious, but have you noticed a shift actually in that fear of embarrassing loudly, or fear of putting yoururself out there?
Yeah, for sure. I think, you asked me about earlier in Korea and those early days. I would have the conversations in my head about the question I wanted to ask and weigh up whether it was the right thing to ask. And then usually some man would ask the question and everyone would be nodding. And I was like, oh God, I should have asked the question. And some of the questions I think might seem like stupid questions. And you think nobody else is ever thinking that. But then when you ask it, you sort of see a sigh of relief of everybody going, oh, God, I wanted to know.
So
I didn't want to say that. Yeah, I'm so pleased somebody asked that.
Yes.
So I kind of feel like I've made a living now out of asking what can seem like dumb questions. But if you leave things that you're not sure about, I think that's incredibly undermining. And I think that doesn't create an environment where everybody can come and kind of bring the best selves forward and give the advice that they're being paid to give, because that's why they're in the room. Yeah,
you're so right. And I'm always that person in the room. Like, I was about to ask that next, so I'm so pleased that she did. Curiosity is, as I said before, one of the big things that I noticed that our guests have in common. What qualities or patterns do you think in the women that you've met over the years? Because one thing that I love about you, and like particularly when I was doing my research and like watching on within your career, is that the way that you give back and connect with female founders and women in business. I think it's such a beautiful thing, and I'm in awe of that. What qualities and patterns do you think that you notice within women that succeed? What would you say that they are?
Well, they're all unbelievably hardworking. I think they're all very determined. I think they don't realise some of the hard things that they did. It's only when other people point it out and go, well, that was so hard. How did you do that?
Yes, because we're used to just doing or being in it.
And it's almost not imagining the problem to be so big, but because the problem didn't start there. It's I needed to do this, then this. And so it's much more a series of small steps that get you to the big goal. Whereas I think often people just think about the big goal, and then that just seems too scary and you can never do that.
Yes, yeah, you're so right. And that is also such a female thing, where we just dig deep and get on with it, right? And actually, when you break it down, it was quite a big accomplishment. But I think I made a pact to myself last year, and I'm getting better at it, where actually that we celebrate and we take stock of moments when they happen, rather than thinking, okay, great, but what's next? Are you good at that?
I do try and celebrate the moment. I think it's really important. And I often with my team say, hang on a minute, look where we are. Can we just have a moment, look up, be grateful, and now move on, hurry up.
Yeah. And now into next year. Yeah. From your perspective, what would you say the biggest challenges women in business face today?
That's a big question. I think if you're focusing on entrepreneur, the biggest question is raising capital. We know that less than 3% of the money from VCs go to female-led businesses. That's far too small. So we know it's harder.
When women take up the bulk of the household spend, which I think is the irony.
And there's as many, women coming up that have got great ideas for businesses, but they're finding it more and more difficult to actually, or equally difficult, it's not more difficult, it's equally difficult as it ever has been to raise capital. There are now more female-focused funds, which is great and is an advancement, but there's a massive lack of equality when it comes to where the money actually goes. So I think that's the biggest one.
I think, and definitely, and I think we've again spoke about that a lot on this show, and I think that there is such a disparity that it almost feels like it's archaic. When you think of the incredible female-founded businesses and women that are absolutely smashing it, the fact that that stat still exists to me is like, sorry, is this not a number from years ago?
No,
in the olden days?
I keep checking it.
Yeah,
It's not.
Are we sure that we've got that data right? I want to talk about AI because, again, this links back to the buzzword of curiosity. I had an interesting conversation with Vanessa King-Ori, and she said something that really stuck out to me, because there's that fear, and a lot in my friendship group, it's sort of going around like we're a bit scared of AI and how that looks, and no one's going to have any jobs left, and everybody. And Vanessa said something, and she put it so eloquently, and she said, "You're not going to lose your job to AI. You're going to lose your job to somebody that knows what they're doing when it comes to AI." And
AI isn't going to take your job. The people that you're using AI could possibly do so.
Correct, exactly that. So where do you think the fear, is the fear misplaced, would you say? Because I think, is it just new? Is it like, should we embrace that curiosity? And I mean, I suppose it isn't new. I think it's now AI and their phones are listening, or we can ask a robot questions and it gives us an answer very quickly. But actually, when you think about it, we've been using AI for a very long time, but it's just the way that the conversation has changed a little more, and I suppose how advanced it's got. Do you think the fear is misplaced?
Yes, definitely. And I'll tell you why. And especially when it comes to women using AI. We've almost seen this kind of rodeo before with digital. When digital came, we saw that women didn't embrace the tools and the skills in the same way that men were doing. And the data tells us today that's exactly the same.
Wow.
So women are using, in the workplace, are using AI on average 20% less than men.
Gosh.
And the research is telling us that the reason why actually isn't fear. It's often not fear. It's because women feel that they're cheating if they're using it to do the jobs.
That's so
isn't
interesting.
it? So it's like, I want to be a really good girl. It's almost like school days.
Yeah.
And therefore, to do my work, I need to have, sweated and really worked hard. I think that's going to dissipate, that kind of feeling. But it already creates the fact that there's 20% of women using it less, and so they're behind to start with. We've got to embrace it. I mean, at Meta, we talk about all the people there being super users of AI. And the way that you get to be a super user of AI is that you start small. It's like the big jobs that we were talking about, how you get to build a big business. So every day, Meta AI is free. It's on the top of every single one of our apps. It's being used by 1 billion people every single month, which is fantastic. So if you don't know what to do, just start there. Ask it a question. Start to learn. And then start to learn how it can help you in your life. And every aspect of your life, not just your work, but in your personal life, with your kids, with numbers, whatever it is that you're interested in, it can help you. But you have to kind of take the first step.
Yes.
And you have to build it in as a regular pattern. And you have to be willing to be curious, but also to go, actually, I want to educate myself. Because if you've got kids, my kids will be using it. The other people in the office will be using it. And it will make you more productive. It will make you more efficient. If you weren't creative in the past, you can be more creative. If you didn't know how to do math, you'll be able to do that. So the opportunity is there. And us as a company, well, we've been investing in it well over a decade, since the earliest days of Facebook and Newsfeed, because we're using AI to show you the right things in your feed that are going to resonate the most with you. That's one of the ways that we use it.
Wow, see, that is so interesting. I didn't know. And I think for me, and I, by the way, I'm a technophobe, so you're talking, you
Well, I don't want you to be after this conversation.
No, I know. And
You're going to do the minute a day?
Yeah, I will. I'm getting better at asking questions, and I found it really interesting in terms of copy. So for my brand, for instance, we've got a very particular tone of voice, and it's always been the same, and I've been so across it to every detail, and that has blown my mind. Like, if I ask it a question in the tone of voice of my little Coco, and it's like such a helpful tool, and it's not necessarily going to be copied and pasted, but it's sort of something that's
It's a good starter.
It's a
for
good
you.
starter,
Yeah.
and it's given us the bones of something to sort of tweak the copy. And I love it in those terms. I've got friends that are using it for. Her little girl is now intolerant to dairy, and it's like putting shopping lists together and recipes. And I think, like you say, just sort of, for me, dipping my toe in, I found it so interesting. My husband is now like downloading apps, and I'm not scared of it. I'm just a little bit like, I don't really know what's happening, but I'm getting used to asking questions. So that's kind of a little safe space for me at the minute. What do you think, if we're going to sort of focus women using AI, because that is what is really important. We don't want any more of these stats that we can change, right?
Completely.
We're fighting, and there's not a lot we can do about the gap in funding, right? But at this level, we need to make sure that we're educating ourselves and taking part. If a woman is listening to this conversation right now and actually like, I am looking to start up, I don't know, a clothing business, this is just very hypothetical, how can AI really be helpful in those conversations for startup? Like in terms of building out a business plan or finding suppliers? Like how could somebody use this if they had no idea but they're starting out?
It can literally do all of those things. So you can go on to Meta AI, you can start to ask it to give you inspiration from other places, help me think about the big strategic questions, what are the steps that I need to follow? How will I do the marketing? And here's the good thing, the girl from Meta can help you on that. Because
I love it.
You know, what one of the things I'm most proud about that Meta has done is actually the democratization of advertising. So when I was starting in the industry over 30 years ago, actually you needed to be a very big business to work with a company like BBH.
Right.
You can literally be, a woman starting out with £10 in a pocket and going, I've got an idea and maybe I want to test it. You could start to just put it out for free. You can obviously create your page for free for your business, start to get friends and family to go follow behind it. And then at the point that you've got your product and you want to go, well, I want to get wider than my friends and family, you can start to use our advertising tools. Across all our advertising suite, we have incredible products that are AI-driven, kind of the AI foundation. And it's called the Meta Advantage suite of products. I'm going to get you using these.
Oh my God, I love it.
Determined.
And I can see how excited you are, and I love that.
No, this is now like a one-on-one coaching.
Yeah, no,
what you need to do
by
is
the way,
my
I'm
little
like, I've got
Coco.
a list of questions. I need to be just taking notes. I'm going to get the transcript.
But what the AI can do now, it's like a series of, think of it as simple buttons that in the past, if you were going to run your first campaign and you were thinking about who your target audience would be and you've got your piece of creative, probably about 150 steps to get from that point of, I've got an idea, I've got a piece of creative, to getting it out. AI means now that we can do it in one button, and we can probably find much better targeting for you than you could have found if you were doing it all manually, which means that the money that you're spending with us is much more performant. And what we see now is a result, about 70% of our advertisers globally are using our AI products, which is great, and it's continuing to go up, big increase year on year. But we're finding that for every pound that you put into Meta, you'll get on average back £3.82.
Gosh.
Yeah, so it's an incredible return. And obviously people are getting much more than that because it's an average. So that's something that really, really excites me. And it really excites me when it comes for female founders in particular, because often, I travel all around the world and I meet female founders all over the world, and they talk about how they actually started from their home, like a room like this.
Yeah.
There might be kids running around. It's something they were doing at night. And I'm just so proud of the fact that that's something that our company's been able to empower to happen.
And empower women to be able to turn like the side hustle into the main focus, but because they have the tools to be able to do so, that ordinarily you'd need a board or a team or an expert in that particular field. It's so incredible.
And now we're seeing also with the whole rise of generative AI creative, that if you've got your one picture and you might want to put it in an Instagram square, but then it might need to be a story or it might need to go on Facebook, we can change the image generation for you. We can change the text for you. We can change work on the languages. It's really exciting. We can make it move a little bit.
It is literally the dream for a small independent startup to be able to have it's like you've got the back end of a big corporate behind you. Do
Yeah,
you know what I mean? That you
it
can
is.
actually tap in. It's so, so incredible. If you look kind of 5 to 10 years ahead, how do you see AI and I suppose technology shaping the future of entrepreneurship? I know that's quite a big question,
Yep.
but I suppose that you are, I mean, if there's anyone that's tapped into 5 to 10 years ahead in tech, it's you. But how do you see that really, shaping the way that women in business can operate?
It's a big question. I think we'll all be much more comfortable with AI.
Yeah.
We've recently launched our Ray-Ban Meta glasses. I don't know if you've seen them. Are the
I have a
smartest
pair.
AI display that exists.
I just cannot get. So basically, one of my best friends, he went to a concert in New York. And I can't remember who this was. Like, I want to say it was when they were really, and he's the first person I saw have them. And it must have been a bit of a campaign that they did. They partnered with an artist. He'd gone to a concert anyway. And they said no phones. And they gave you a pair of the glasses instead to say, like, just watch the concert in real time, which is like genius. I just love the marketing of that anyway. Because you go to a concert and all everyone does is hold their phone up, right?
Which is not what they did when you first started.
Yeah, exactly that, exactly. So they all had to wear these glasses. And for him, he's a personal trainer, but he films clients and he'll film. So for him, it's kind of had a whole... his whole business had a whole new outlook because he gets to film from his point of view as he's exercising and so on and so forth and training. But I think they are genius. They will get you in a little bit of trouble though. I was like, paparazzi are now wearing them at the same time as shooting you. So they've got video of you, of your conversation at the same time as stills.
No, but they have
So
a
we were
privacy
laughing.
light on.
Yeah, so you can see. So I
So
know.
you can
I
see,
know now.
So you can see.
Yeah.
But the thing we've just launched, so that's an amazing product, but we've just launched the new version, which we only announced last week and is just about to come
tell
out.
me everything.
Which is called Ray-Ban Meta Display.
Right.
And the display literally feels like you have a screen here where you can see, and you control it with a wristband here, where very small movements with your hand are kind of moving it on. And you have your control panel where you can see your different apps that you want. So if you want to go into WhatsApp, I had a phone call with my son who's on, studying abroad at the moment. Click on, I can see him and he can see my view out. I mean, it's amazing. And I was thinking about some of the things that you were saying about, the shopping earlier when you look in the fridge and you're thinking, you can literally look at the fridge now, open the door and say, hey, Meta, with what I've got, what shall I cook for dinner? Show me some recipes. And then because you then can multitask, you can be cooking and seeing the recipe at the same time as you're going through. So what
This is
that
like
does...
blowing my whole
well, you asked me
mind.
for the future. The future's actually now.
Yeah, I was
the
gonna
future is
say.
now, but you can start to see how that's going to change. Because this is quite
In 5 and 10 years.
artificial, isn't
Yes.
it? When we're all doing this.
Yeah.
Nothing makes me more sad when I see people doing
I know.
this at a table together.
Even just for posture and for like shrinking ourselves and no eye contact.
So you're back to...
Yes.
And half the planet wears glasses. So we're really excited about this. And we also just launched the Oakley Meta Vanguard as well. I don't know if you like running or any sports.
I like sport. I'm into stepping.
Okay.
Running. I ran a marathon once.
Okay, so you run it. You're a runner.
No, I'm not. That's the joke. I thought I would continue to be a runner after that experience, but I never did again.
Okay, well, I'm pretending you're
But
still
just
a runner.
pretend. It makes me sound good.
So
I'm a runner.
the Oakleys the Vanguard has links with integrations with Garmin and with Strava, and you can actually see your metrics as you're kind of running, so you can work out what your pace is, if you're pacing in line with what your expectations should be. It's really cool.
And you're so right in what you're saying. Like, we're in the future now.
Yeah.
And yeah, in 5, if we're here now, in 5 to 10 years, that is, I mean...
It's more and more exciting.
It is more and more exciting. And it is just being curious and embracing it. I think we live in a world now that everybody there's a conspiracy about everything, right? And I can't. I've got a family group chat and things are forwarded and they're like, everyone's watching us and it's all... I'm like, guys, embrace it. This is the future. That's like saying... however many years ago when smartphones happened, that I think...
Well, my favourite one of those is in Victorian times, women were told not to read newspapers because it would make them go blind. So there's always been it's kind of this curve that happens with new technology, where the technology, and the paper is technology, newspapers technology. Everyone gets very excited, then there's a fear, and then there's a kind of a normalization of it. So we've just got to kind of embrace the fact that it's real and it's here and it's an empowerment and it's exciting.
It's absolutely exciting. Before I do our rocket round, I want to ask you a question about, I suppose, your style when it comes to leadership. I'd like to know what sort of leader you are and what your approach is with your team. I'm always kind of interested if, like, I was to ask your team what sort of leader you are, what do you think they would say? And what sort of leader do you want to be, and how do you think it translates?
I hope the same would be of the two, because I think some women, some men are very different in the workplace to how they are at home and personal, and people see a real stark contrast. I think what you see with me is what you get. Yeah. I'm someone who loves life, who is grateful for the world and the role and the position and the family that I have. And I want to be in a position to be able to empower people to be the best that they can. I set really clear North Stars. I set clear milestones. I set clear expectations of what I want people to do. But I hope I create a space where if people have challenges in order to hit those milestones, they can come in and go, I've got a problem, here's why. Because I think if you don't do that, then I think that makes it difficult. So that's the things that I think I would say, and hopefully people would feel. The bit I would also add is that I like to have fun. Yeah. We spend a lot of time with our work friends, our work colleagues. And so one of my favourite posters I've got in my office says that meetings were made for laughter.
Oh, I love that.
And I kind of always try and encourage a bit of that as well.
I mean, if humour can make any awkward situation, you can get out of those very, very easily. What do you do? Because listen, your job is very, very fast paced. You're in the future constantly, right? And just by nature of what you do and having to be that way, and you're leading, there's a big responsibility. What do you do for you when you're like, okay, guys, this is all a bit too much. I need some time for me and I need to switch off? Because we all do. To be good at what we do, we've got to find that thing for ourselves, right? That thing that makes us switch off. What do you do for you?
My team is probably laughing as they listen to whatever it is I'm going to do, because actually the whole thing is me. That's what I do for me. I just get energy about being with people, about doing new things, about going to different places. And at the same time, I'm cramming in watching whatever the thing I have to watch on the box sets is. I'm obsessed with theatre. I love going to the theatre.
Do you? What's your favourite show?
Oh, my new favourite show is Masquerade. That's on, because I live in New York now, which is on it's just off Broadway.
Wow.
And it opens this week. But I've managed to see a sneaky preview.
And it's good?
It's not good. It's mind-blowing. It's an immersive version of Phantom of the Opera.
Oh, my gosh.
Mind-blowing. Book tickets now.
I'm such a West End Wendy at heart. Yeah. I'm like, I love nothing more than a good show. It's just, there's a bit of nostalgia for me as well. I think that was always a treat when I was growing up. Like, you went to...
It was the number 2 musical on the planet. I feel like a sales girl for the Phantom of the Opera, but it was an unbelievable show. So those are some of the things. And
if you were just wanting a day of switching off?
I don't really do that. Like, nobody's going to think that I'm the girl that takes a day off. I would find 1,000 things to do if I did take a day off.
Wow.
But I would probably be travelling.
Yeah.
I'd be with my family. Yeah. That's what I would be doing.
That makes you switch off. For me, it's Pilates.
I don't want to switch off. And actually, everyone tells me I probably should, but I don't want to do that. It's too much to do. I'm like,
I've never had this answer before, and I love it.
Yeah, time is too precious. It's like squeeze every minute out of every day that you can pack something in. It's a little exhausting, can be, for others.
Yeah. I'm always on.
They're all nodding.
Just laughing. She tires us out. For me, it's Pilates. I have to have an hour at some point.
I know, I need to do that.
But do you know what? It's weird. I've started to do it before my kids wake up. And I've never, trust me, I'm not naturally an early person, so I've forced myself into being one.
So what time is that you're doing that?
So I'm doing it at anywhere between 5:30 and 6.
Right.
But
that's no, that's not happening.
But I used to be that person. But do you know how nice it is for me to start the day now not being needed? Does that make sense? So not someone going, mummy, or Rochelle, we just need a... Or I used to literally wake up when I would hear my son on the monitor go, Mum, Mama, and I think, oh, here we go. But I give myself a bit of time. And sometimes the Pilates doesn't always happen, but that's the thing where I kind of am so focused on what they're telling me to do, I'm so out of my mind, I don't actually think about anything else. But sometimes it might just be scrolling, or even just like answering an email in my own time, or making a tea. But to get up and not be needed, I like going in and then waking him up and I'm like, morning. I'm just a better person for it, but I've had to like fight to get there.
I love your answer. I love we're both wearing auras. So you probably yours for the right reason. I wear it so that it nags me every day going, really, Nicola?
And it
really?
goes, do you want to get up now?
Yeah.
No,
Looks like it's not going that well for you today. It's like naggy aura, but I do love it.
There's nothing more humbling, is it? It's like, time to stretch your legs a bit. I'm like, all right, cheers.
Do you work at a tech company? I don't think so.
Yeah, exactly that. Right, let's do our rocket round now. I kind of want to tweak the first one. Around
By the way, I usually do this to people.
Do you?
Yeah.
I like.
We call it the fast fire round.
There you go. It's supposed to be quick fire, but it never really turns out quick fire because I always pick women that like a conversation. So, what do you believe are the non-negotiables when using AI for running a business?
I don't think you can run a business now if you're not using AI.
Love it. Where do you think the starting point should be? What should every entrepreneur be using when it comes to AI?
You should be thinking, you should be going and asking other people what they're using and what you can learn from them. Go and ask the AI what other entrepreneurs are using in order to help them build their business better.
That's smart.
Yeah, and actually there's a whole thing about prompting that we've not talked about, which is that, you know, the more succinct, the better the prompts are, the better the answers and the data that you'll get back. So
Right.
be more insistent on the AI, as, you know, in terms of what you want to get from it.
Okay.
Don't just write me a business plan for my clothing company.
You don't be lazy with it.
Yes, correct.
Yes, yeah.
Because you'll get a lazy answer back.
What's the first thing you do when you wake up and the last thing you do before you go to bed?
Okay, so it's a new thing in the last year. So I suppose the real answer to you, what do you really do for that time? I'm trained myself to do 15 minutes of breathing.
Ooh.
It was supposed to be 20 minutes twice a day, but I negotiated with the person down, which is really only negotiating with myself. So I only do it in the morning. So that's what I do in the morning. And then in the evening, wherever I am in the world, I just have to have a warm bubble bath before I go to sleep.
This is me.
That's what I need to do.
That is all the meditation I need, you know.
Me
a good
too.
bath, my hair just up on my head,
Me too.
and my
in
girlfriend
a
on the phone.
pineapple pony.
There's just nothing hits like that, does it? It really doesn't. And the point where Marvin said to me the other day, and he always says, like, if you get in the shower after me, it's like burning. It's like this is lava. How do you get in this? I'm like, it's beautiful. But I literally shouted the other day, oh, just do me a favour. I just forgot to let the bath out. So he pushed it and he was like, Rochelle, my hand burnt going in. I was like, I've been in that for half an hour. I'm immune. A good hot bath. What is one piece of advice that you wish you hadn't listened to?
I don't think like that, because whatever's happens. So you've just got to get on with it, move, learn from that. Like Silicon Valley really embraces failure, much more so than the Brits do.
Yes.
The Brits, you like tarnish forever. That was the girl that did X.
Did X, yeah.
Whereas in America, it's almost like a badge. That was the person that failed and then got up and did X, Y, and Z. So it's not in my framework of thinking.
It's so British, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I think that with...
Your question is a British question.
It's a British question.
Tell me about failure. Let's really revel in it.
No, but I do think, you know, when... I always find it interesting to think, I wish I hadn't listened to that, because I did. It was a place where I was maybe a little bit vulnerable. I did. But actually what I've learned is X, Y, and Z. And I think that's often the case. But you're right. It's a British way of thinking. It's like here you work hard to be able to afford to drive your dream car, and you pull up at traffic lights and they'll be like, flash git. But you'd go to America and they'll be like, hey man, cool car.
Yeah, what can I learn from you? Yeah.
And I noticed that when I lived there so much. What is a skill that you'd love to learn?
Well, I want to get better and better at AI. It's changing all the time, and so that is why I'm actually actively learning. So I want to get better.
Love it. What's one thing that you wish someone had told you before you started your career?
I don't think like this. I
can see it
It's just
in
an
you.
adventure. I mean, it's an adventure. There's going to be times when you get knocked down, but it's actually the real strength and learning is by what you do in those moments. And I'm not a person that dwells on negativity. I'm not a person that looks back. And I think that actually is a secret to being happy, because you get happy for the moment that you're in. You find solace in whatever is good, even at the worst moments in your life. And we all have them. It's actually where am I today and where do I want to go tomorrow, and just keep putting one foot forward. Yes. And hopefully that helps.
And I think one foot forward is the best advice, isn't it? Because
I don't regret anybody if they'd have told me that. I'd have gone, I agree.
No. This isn't a regret. Just one thing that you wish someone had told you, and almost like use
your voice more. There you go. When I was younger in Korea and I was having all those conversations in my head, I should have used my voice more.
That's interesting. What if you could choose one female figure as a mentor, past or present? Who would that be?
Well, I talked about my mum and my grandma, but I'll give you a different one. Dame Stevie Shirley. I don't know if you know her. She sadly passed away recently, but she was 91 years old and had lived a magnificent life. And in the 60s, she created a software company. At the time in the 60s, everybody was building hardware and giving software away for free. And she thought, well, why don't I do a freelance software company? I think there'll be merit in that. And she also saw it was very difficult for women to get employed or to work around having children, really difficult in the 60s. So she said, I'm going to create a female-only software business, which she started with £6 and eventually rose for it to be a multi-billion-pound company. And I think she isn't as famous as she should be. Her whole life story is extraordinary. She came over on the Kinder transport, and her whole life was about giving back. So the money that she raised, she gave to the other women in the company. She did a lot with autism. She was really an early person investing in autism, so her philanthropy was really impactful. And I had the privilege of working with her, being with her, interviewing her on a number of occasions. So she was always so wise. And she was all about curiosity. She was right at the early days.
She sounds incredible.
She's an awesome. Read a book. She's a very cool lady.
I will. Oh, wow. When we come to the end of every episode, I like each guest to leave a tip, almost like one piece of tangible advice. If a listener is listening right now and they are a lady looking to launch, what would that bit of advice be?
I'm going to give you two.
Love it. We'll take two all day long.
One is a simple one. When you're about to go into what you feel like a scary meeting, breathe and smile, because then you'll hold yourself differently. That's important. And then the other one is my favorite quote, which is an Eleanor Roosevelt one, which is do the things you think you cannot do. Because when you do those things, that's where your greatest learning comes from. That's where you get the greatest sense of self-satisfaction as well. So you'll go on the journey and you'll go faster.
And we all need that like fuel and that kind of those reminders that actually I did that. And it almost becomes a bit of a sort of benchmark on, like there are moments that I'm like, I got through this and I achieved that. So it always becomes something to refer to, right? So when you go entering into the next thing that you're like, this doesn't feel like I should do this yet, or... Yeah. Is this right? You have that to sort of as like reference point to be like, you made it through that. Come on, we can do this. And then it continues to evolve, doesn't it? Lastly, I ask every guest how they spend their lunch hour. But I've figured out in the past hour of us talking, I don't think you have a lunch hour. And you're laughing and everyone's like, absolutely not. But we can answer this one of two ways. What if you when you have to eat? So how do you
You sound like a mad woman.
No, but it's really common, by the way. Lots of people are like, okay, if I was going to eat, it's normally like I eat through the next meeting and just apologise to everyone around me, but I'm eating this. Or if you were going to take your team out for a celebratory lunch, where are you going and what are you eating? So you can give me like normal day or special occasion.
Let's have some fun. So one of the amazing things at working at Meta is that we have these incredible cafes and we have little micro kitchens. Ooh. Because we want people to make it easy. So in the micro kitchens, you've got like sweets and chocolates, but you've also got healthy things. So you can just grab whatever it is you're looking for. I'm liking them chocolates more. And then we have amazing cafes as well with all different foods. And so actually I was with Shruti and Daria and Delaney and Michelle today for lunch, that we sat there 20 minutes. We just sort of kind of ate and chatted, kind of talked work, talked personal, and then up we go again. So it's quite an efficient lunch. But yeah, I'm often on a Zoom, eating away, depending, because I'm on international calls. So I
Your time zones.
Everybody's time zones are different, and
you're eating dinner when it's breakfast,
and all the rest of it.
So what is on your kind of, okay, if I was your assistant and I was going to grab your lunch for you and I was going to bring it to the table because I know that you're busy, what am I grabbing?
So what would they get me? Probably something like a tuna sandwich and a bit of avocado.
Oh, nice.
And then I'd like a little bit of a sweet treat.
There, yeah. Oh, listen, what's a day without a sweet treat?
Yeah, or 2 or 3. But I am trying to cut the sugar down.
And then say, take the bag away from me because I'm going to finish the whole thing.
Exactly,
That's
exactly.
me.
But if you eat it in 2 parts, then it doesn't count.
It doesn't count. It's like when
Everyone
I buy
knows
the
that.
mini hot cross buns because I can eat 4 of them and my mind,
fine.
that's just one.
So true.
Thank you so much. I've absolutely loved talking to you, and it's so good to meet you in person and deep dive into our conversation. I appreciate you coming, so thank you.
No, thank you so much, and in awe of everything that you've built and achieved
Oh,
so far.
Gosh,
So far.
Thank you. Don't forget to follow us on Apple and Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts to make sure that you don't miss out, because next time I'm going to be joined by another incredible lady who launched. If, like me, you're a watcher, then please follow us on YouTube and don't forget to like and subscribe.